Great news, Minnesota Vikings fans. We finally got to hear what our players' reactions were to the Kevin O'Connell hire. Up until this moment, we didn't even know what the players thought about this hire because if you've been tuning into this show, you know I love the Kevin O'Connell hire. You know I was very pleased to see that he's going to be our next head coach and that we're taking a different approach to the coaching hiring than we have in the past, where we had Mike Zimmer, where we had Leslie Frazier, where we had Brad Childress. We're taking a different approach where we're taking young offensive minds. And I'm excited about that. I'm very excited for this new era of Vikings football. I am so pumped and I'm very intrigued to see what he's going to bring to the table, how this Vikings team is going to run in the 2022 season and beyond. Because in all honesty, we have no clue. We don't know how our Vikings team is going to look next year because we don't know who half of our coaching staff is going to be yet. We don't know who defensive, special teams, and offensive coordinators are all going to be. But what we do know is Justin Jefferson is just as happy as his hire as I am. Justin Jefferson said during a press conference this last weekend, the Pro Bowl weekend, that this is what he answered to the question. I've been watching the Rams offense for a minute now. They got their playmakers the ball. Important. You can notice there right there. They have some tremendous plays. Cooper Kupp is wide open all the time. I'm excited. And this is the first head coach that's going to be an offensive side instead of the defensive side. So I'm happy. And I quote, Justin Jefferson is very excited for the next head coach for the Minnesota Vikings, and that will be Kevin O'Connell, offensive coordinator for the Rams after the Super Bowl, will be named the Minnesota Vikings head coach, and Justin Jefferson is excited. Why is he excited? Because Cooper Kupp was targeted 191 times last year. 191 and took the triple crown: most receiving yards, most receptions, and most receiving touchdowns in the 2021 season. You know what also they have in common? They're in the Super Bowl right now. So what makes them look good? Passing the dang ball. When do the Vikings look the best? When they pass the ball. I feel like at this point, there's no question about that. The Vikings look the best when they make Justin Jefferson the focal point of their offense. That is when the Vikings win game. That is when the Vikings look the best. And Cooper Kupp had 191 targets last year. That's 22 targets. 22 more than Devontae Adams, who was in second place, more than any other receiver. And they're in the Super Bowl because they made their pass game the focal point of their offense. They made that the core part of their team, passing the ball, taking shots down the field, past the sticks. Really just the opposite of what we saw the Vikings do last year. In all honesty, the complete opposite. Not only that, but I was surprised that he didn't mention the fact that Odell is on their team, as Justin Jefferson, from what we've seen, is a huge Odell fan, and they rightfully so. They both went to LSU, and he's going to always cheer for other LSU receivers like Odell, like Jarvis Landry, and the list goes on. But he's going to cheer for these past LSU boys. Not only is Odell in the Super Bowl LSU wide receiver right there, we got Jamar Chase in there, and hopefully next year we'll have Justin Jefferson there. Probably not going to happen, but at the end of the day, we have to look at this and say, is this even Kevin O'Connell? Because you look at the Rams offense. There's no question the Rams have a tremendous offense. Their offensive line is phenomenal. I mean, well, it's up there. It's top 10. Matthew Stafford is looking better than he's looked almost his entire career since he's had Kelvin Johnson on his team. He's looking the best. Not only that, but you look at the receiving core as a whole. I mean, Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods were already a top 3 receiver, no, top 5, somewhere around the receiver duo in the league. They bring in Odell Beckham Jr., save him from the Cleveland Browns, and completely revamp their offense. On top of that, their run game is not terrible, despite the fact that Darrell Henderson was starting a majority of the games and Sony Michel. I mean, these guys are not excellent, yet they continue to look good. So it's no question that the Rams offense is great and probably one of the leading reasons why they're in the Super Bowl. I mean, I understand they have Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Jalen Ramsey on the defensive side of the ball. They have a lot of star defensive players. But the reason why they're in the Super Bowl right now is their passing offense. The reason why the Bengals are in the Super Bowl right now is their passing offense. And you look at it for the Minnesota Vikings. Yes, defense was the biggest reason why we lost last year. But the biggest reason why the Vikings didn't make the playoffs was the fact that they didn't make Justin Jefferson the focal point of your team. There is no question at this point in time that Justin Jefferson is your best playmaker on your team. Better than Dalvin Cook, better than Adam Thielen, better than Osborne. I believe right now there's no question about that. When the Vikings team looks best when you take shots down the field to Justin Jefferson, yes, I understand. The run game, I love running the ball. The run game is always open. But you have to remember that you have to be an unpredictable offense in 2022 that runs plays like it's not 1980. Mike Zimmer, I'm talking to you. But you look at this here, and now this is so exciting. But here's the thing. You look at the Rams offense. It's not a Kevin O'Connell-led team. Because you can say, well, Kevin O'Connell led this team to the Super Bowl because their offense looks great. You just that's not a valid point because that's a Sean McVay led team, the entire team. And that offense is led by Sean McVay. And he's just known to make one of the best coaching trees in the entire NFL. So it's led completely by Sean McVay. And that's why you got to give him credit where credit is due. That man is a mastermind of an offensive coordinator. And he's also the play caller. So he's in charge of that offense. But this helps Kevin O'Connell because Kevin O'Connell can learn from Sean McVay as he's under Sean McVay. And despite the fact that Sean McVay might be more designing the plays and calling the plays than Kevin O'Connell, it's good to know that Justin Jefferson is excited for this hiring. And I'm really wondering what other players think because I'm excited for the Kevin O'Connell hire. And from what I've seen, a majority of Vikings fans are. Now, yes, a lot of people are not at all happy about hiring Kevin O'Connell. And, I can see their point. I can see where they're coming from. But I'm very excited for this. And it's good to know that Justin Jefferson is excited. Why? Because Jefferson wants the ball. And this is not the kind of diva situation where you're like, oh, classic receiver just wanting the ball. That's all they care about. No, that's not. All that Justin cares about is winning the game. You've never seen Justin Jefferson complain about not getting targets when they win the game. He could get 6 targets, Vikings win the game. Jefferson doesn't care. Okay, the reason why Vikings were losing games was because they weren't targeting Jeffersons, because they weren't taking shots down the field, because they thought taking tight end screens on 3rd and long is a good idea. That is the reason why the Vikings were losing to the Cowboys. The reason why the Vikings were losing to the Lions last year was simply the fact that they don't know how to run an offense. And now bringing in this new head coach, Kevin O'Connell, can help us revamp this Vikings offense. Give our offense a new identity. Give our offense the right identity. And I'm all in for it.